Good morning, everyone. Good to see you all. Amy, happy birthday to your daughter. It's good to see everyone here together. Tonight is going to be Shabbat. Tomorrow night begins Shavuot, a holiday where we learn Torah all night long. I'm not wearing white. I know that some of you have noticed that. Some of you know why. Some of you might be wearing orange too. Today is literally an orange around the nation day. It's called Wear Orange Day. And it is not only in order to remember those who have been killed, murdered, by American gun violence, an epidemic that claims 40,000 lives a year. Something that I understood 10 years ago to be 3 new towns a day. Today is also a day where we recognize that we haven't done enough. We just haven't done enough, and wearing a shirt will not do it. But I have to outwardly manifest what I inside of myself feel. And I know that we're not alone. I know that I'm not alone. I helped found a group called Rabbis Against Gun Violence 10 years ago. And we are 1,600 people strong, and that is not enough because we haven't ended the problem. In fact, over the last 20 days, there have been 9 mass shootings. Sorry. That sounds like a lot, but I actually reversed the numbers by accident. Over the last 9 days, there have been 20 mass shootings. We haven't done enough, friends. And I know I should talk about Shabbos, and I know I should talk about Shavuot. There is a lot of hope for us to generate, but I want to make sure that you look at this color that I'm wearing, and you see it, as I do, searing our souls with the recognition that our children have been failed by our efforts thus far. And that is a failure, a sin, a stain on the fabric of this country. That our politicians have prioritized their own political survival over our children's is horrific. That we have made the mistake to correlate mental illness with gun violence being done to others, instead of saying 6 out of every 10 gun violence deaths are suicide by gun, which means we don't care as a nation about those who are suffering with mental illness enough to protect them by making guns just a little bit less accessible, because they're not going to hurt you. They, God forbid, would hurt themselves. And when I say they, I mean we. Because in the midst of a pandemic, which we are not done with, mental illness and stress is very significant in every human soul. We are all vulnerable. I'm not wearing orange to worry about someone else. I'm wearing orange to worry about my children, about myself. We are all vulnerable, friends. And the numbers and the statistics are terrifying. And we could become hopeless or distracted or, God forbid, numb. We are called by prophets like Dr. King and Rabbi Heschel, who reminded us that we dare not become used to this. We dare not accustom ourselves to this, accommodate violence. We have to be in shock every single time, friends. So I'm going to ask you to pay really close attention and open up your heart every time there's a God forbid headline, and get moving. To date, and I say this with shame, Rabbis Against Gun Violence isn't a 501c3. We aren't actually a legal entity. We are a group of rabbis, your rabbis, who need to be demanded to get active on this, because there is no single Jewish organization that has taken gun violence on as its issue. Many of our most sacred organizations, including UJA, try to include gun violence on our list of priorities. There is no Jewish organization that does this. And so I place my effort with the national organizing bodies who see the gun violence epidemic as their reason for being, as the center of their mission. That includes Everytown, that includes the Giffords campaign, that includes the Brady campaign, that includes work like that being led by our dear friend and teacher Fred Guttenberg, whose daughter Jamie was murdered in Parkland. We shouldn't, God forbid, wait until it is in our home until we get active. How dare we not see those children as our own? How dare we not think about legislation that 90% of Americans say they care about but haven't voted for? How dare we listen to the thoughts and prayers of politicians and let the moment of grief not galvanize a national revolution? The Constitution says a well-regulated militia. Well-regulated seems to have been erased from our national consciousness because we violate the second command, which we celebrate tomorrow night on Shavuot, the giving of the Torah. The second command not to have any idols, we violate that by worshiping the Second Amendment. There is so much for us to talk about, but this is a day for talking about one thing, because every day it seems like we need to talk about it again. And until our children can go to school in safety and come home safety, until lockdown drills sound as blasphemous as they are, until you cannot find a bulletproof backpack on Amazon because you never should have. There should be no market for that. Until our politicians are ashamed of themselves instead of defending their records. Until we take responsibility for our national welfare, this is the sacred call that Jewish tradition, among all faith traditions, has to respond to. We are a tradition that values life above all. Pikuach nefesh doches Shabbat. Saving a life necessitates by tradition the violation of every other rule. Save a life, drive on Shabbos. Save a life, light a fire. Save a life, do what is necessary. Remember God's call to Cain? The blood of your brother is screaming from the earth. How many brothers and sisters do we need to lose before we know that God's self, is broken? Only we can do the healing. Every day between the second day of Passover and Shavuot, we count the Omer, and it's a tradition, a mystical tradition, to say a certain phrase, L'shem yichud kucha brichu shchinte, in order to heal the internal brokenness of God. I take this action to count the Omer. If God is broken, it's because we have broken each other, and we've allowed our children to bear the brunt of our failure, of what we have enabled, what we have empowered, what we have voted for, what we haven't marched for, what we haven't screamed about, and what we haven't mobilized our Jewish community to combat. When the tragedy, the massacre at the Tree of Life Synagogue happened in Pittsburgh, and then when there was an attack in Poway, the Jewish community finally realized that this is also our issue, but the way that we respond really matters. Do we respond as a matter of internal, tribal reinforcement, meaning the response of the Jewish community to an attack on the Jewish community is more guards and more walls for the Jewish community? Well, of course, we need to take our safety and our precautions seriously, no question. My own daughter's bat mitzvah had a lockdown in the middle of it in the sanctuary of the synagogue. So complicated. We have to take this seriously. But do we remember that the attack on the Tree of Life Synagogue was the 12th gun violence massacre in an American house of worship in 3 years? In a tragic and ironic way, we belong. We have arrived. And the American landscape, which is riddled by bullets, we're on it too. Is anti-Semitism a growing problem? Absolutely. Shouldn't that galvanize us to think about how accessible weapons are? How background checks should be enforced, should be legislated? So I know, friends, that you turn to this community and that I have obligated myself as part of it to be an inspiring voice. I know that's what we turn to each other for. If you're looking for inspiration, friends, recognize that you have the capacity to make an enormous difference. Rav Nachman of Braslav said, a whisper can stop a bullet, but silence won't. We take stands as a Jewish community. I'm holding something in my lap, this beautiful, beautiful pride flag created by a wider bridge, because this is Pride Month. I'm so proud of UJA standing for dignity for our LGBTQ sisters and brothers. We are they are us. We can hold up all these colors. But I say to you, friends, this is a color we haven't held up yet. Not with the urgency it deserves. And if we deserve to stand at the mountain, it's because we have made sure to check on our children's welfare. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God, and you shall be my people. Beautiful. We said Naaseh v'nishma, yes, God, thank you for the gift of life, of dignity, of liberation, the privilege of standing at the base of this mountain. Tradition has actually done a very interesting job of interpreting that moment. Vayityatzvu b'tachtit ahar. The people stood at the base of the mountain. Rashi and the Talmud and others have talked about that moment as God overturning the mountain, holding it over our head. And listen to this language that's in the Talmud. God said, "You accept the Torah? If so, good. If not, this will be your grave." Now, I have spent the week teaching the texts around this, making them more beautiful, that the Kabbalah said that when we stand under the mountain with God, it is our chuppah, and God and we love each other. We commit to each other, and the Torah is our ketubah, our marriage contract, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful, but I want to go back to the raw response of the Talmud to the text. Do you accept my Torah? If not, this will be your grave. Will you do the things that call us to preserve life, or will you die? It really does come down to that, friends. We celebrate the receiving of Torah, but what if there's none of us left to receive it? I know we're going into Shabbos. I know we're going into Chag. I'm going to change into a white shirt before Shabbat dinner tonight. I'm so excited for Shavuot with my family, with my community. I am. I'm not going to miss it. But I'm going to look at them differently tonight and tomorrow and the day after, because they're my children. All of the children who have been killed over these years of school shootings are our children. 20 mass shootings in 9 days, friends. In a free society, Heschel taught us, some are guilty, all are responsible. You might have heard that before, and it's often a way for us to assuage some of our guilt. Some are guilty, all are responsible. Oh, I'm not guilty, I'm responsible. No, I say to you today, we are guilty. We are guilty. Until we do what is necessary to preserve the lives of our children, to preserve the lives of our most vulnerable community, to recognize that mental illness deserves support, not stigma. When we remember that the dignity that we fight for, the beauty of this flag, which leaves no one behind, which sees the beauty in all human beings, when we can put that into one synthesized statement and say, we will march and preserve the dignity, the safety, and the lives of our children. Until we do that with our full hearts, with all of our organizational capacity, with everything we bring to all of our struggles, until then, we are not just responsible, we are guilty. I say this with love for all of our religious leaders. Has your rabbi not just given a heartfelt sermon about this? Have you asked them to lead you in the next March for Our Lives in Washington? Have you asked them how they speak about the politics of gun violence? Have you challenged our knee-jerk reaction to the trauma of Jewish vulnerability and how it makes us think about weapons? Have you thought about how Zionism could be a source of redemption for American Jewish activism on gun violence? Because in Israel, there is an ammunition registry There is an absolute mental health check before anyone can have a gun. There is teaching about the ethics of warfare within the IDF. Can you see the possibilities of this moment? And if you can, don't let yourself off the hook. Aleinu. This is on us. This is on you. This is on me. This is on our rabbis. This is on the presidents of our shuls. This is on the boards of our communities who are scared to take on hot-button issues. This is on us as Americans. This is on us as human beings. I ask you, and I typically don't, please share this message. Please make sure to share this video. Make your own. Share that one. Get loud. Because this is on us. I'm going to sing into this moment. I'm going to pick up my guitar. I'm going to get ready for Shabbat. I'm going to get ready for Shavuot. There's going to be joy. In this moment, grief, rage, and a commitment. It's time. It's been time for a very long time. So friends, get on board. Our children need you. Shabbat Shalom, friends. Chag Sameach. See you on Tuesday morning.